Is there anybody that doesn't like banana pudding? Because I did not bring another dessert. Does everybody like banana pudding? Okay, all right. Perfect. All right. So just like we kind of fancified casserole, right, we're going to fancy up some banana pudding. So when I had the regional, I had a pastry chef who actually did a demo here a couple weeks ago with her husband, who's also a chef, Sarah. And so Sarah was my pastry chef and kind of my right hand for, I guess, almost 15 years. And she is an incredible pastry chef. And when we opened the regional and the idea was to make it, Southern, I told her, I was like, listen, we got to do banana pudding. And she's like, absolutely not. And I was like, no, we're going to have to do banana pudding. It's like Southern. We'll make it fancy. Absolutely not. Usually anything we talked about, we always agreed on. Banana pudding, we never agreed on. I wish she was here because she would be dying. I would totally tell this story in front of her, and I have before. So it's not me talking junk. This is a very real thing. So she would always take vacation. We would always encourage everybody to take vacation during the summer, right? Because summer slows down. And every time she'd go on vacation, I would make banana pudding for the week. And then we would get all these emails and stuff like, oh my God, when are you putting the banana pudding on the menu? And she's like, I hate you. Like, I don't want to do that, whatever. And so it was always the thing. Sarah would take a long weekend. I'd make banana pudding. And so then, unfortunately, when we reopened the regional, Sarah decided to kind of pursue other paths, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't made dessert in 15 years except banana pudding, right? And I can make dessert, but it takes a different side of your brain. I really think it does. As a chef, we can kind of wing things and fix it and add a little bit of this. With baking, you can kind of do that, but for the most part, it needs to be pretty exact. And if something goes wrong, it's really hard to fix. Whereas with regular cooking, you can usually squeeze a lemon in it, I don't know, add some oil, a little stock, a little wine, and like fix it. Pastry is not that way. So in honor of Sarah, I'm making banana pudding, all right? So this makes a good amount, same thing. I wanted you to be able to have a recipe that makes enough for like 6 or so. Today we're serving them in cute little glasses, but you could also do this in a larger container, a pie plate, a casserole dish, what have you. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a banana cream first. And so that's what makes this a little bit fancier, is that we're not using box mix, so it takes a little bit of work, right? But we're gonna start by just taking some whole milk, and then we've put about 1 pound of bananas, which is about roughly 5 bananas that we just kind of roughly chopped. And we've covered it with the milk, we brought it up to a simmer, and then we turned off the heat. Now you can let this cool completely, and it'll infuse it pretty good after a few hours. I always like to do this, and then I just put the whole thing in my refrigerator overnight. The longer it sets, the more banana flavor you're going to get. So whichever way you decide to go, I always like the overnight way. Then you're gonna take this pot out, and you're gonna bring it back up to a simmer, just to bring it back up to heat. And then you want to use kind of a fine mesh strainer of some sort, right? And we're going to pour the milk, and it's just whole milk and bananas, right? And we're going to pour this over a bowl. And you can use the same pot if you want to. I put in the recipe that you definitely can, one less thing to clean, but I'm going to start with a new one. So while this is straining, I'm going to start with the next process. So this is a good amount. Like I said, this serves about 6 to 8. So we've taken 10 whole eggs, right? And so I already have 8 that I've already done. And so I just separated 2 more eggs. I know they sell like all these egg separators and what have you, and I was too busy talking to show you guys. But if you crack the egg and then use your hand as kind of the colander and go back and forth, the white will just slide right off, right? And so now, because this next part takes a little while, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how a savory chef makes meringue. So meringue is one of those things that I think we're all intimidated by, right? Like, do we have cream of tartar? What is that? I don't even know, right? Selling a tiny thing, you go buy it, you've had it for 10 years, does it work? I don't know. I don't use it, all right? I'm being honest with you. So, rule of thumb, 2 times the amount of sugar to the amount of egg whites that you have, okay? So if you start with a cup of egg whites, then you do 2 cups of sugar, okay? And so we've got, I know it's a lot, but that's what makes meringue, okay? It's what it makes it like a marshmallow, because that's essentially what it is. So we're gonna use 10 eggs, and I've got 2 extras over here, so I'm gonna make sure I remember not to use those. Okay, so we've separated the egg whites from the egg yolks, right? Even if you do this ahead of time, it's great, but meringue turns out a lot better if your eggs are at room temperature. So even if you separate it the day before or whatever, let it sit out for at least 30 minutes to an hour before you start to whip it. So we're gonna put this directly into our mixer. Okay. And then we're gonna turn this off, and I'm gonna put this on kind of a medium speed, and I'm gonna let it go, just the egg whites, right? So that was roughly 3 ounces of egg whites, so then I did 6 ounces of sugar, okay? But like I said, you can really, savory chef way of doing it is you can really look at, okay, I have about a cup, so then I'm gonna use 2 cups of sugar, okay? So while that's starting to get frothy, and I'll come back to that in a minute, we are now going to mix in the other ingredients to turn this into a custard. So here and I did put weight. So with pastry, it really always does turn out better if you weigh things, right? You can use cups and things, but if you have a small scale, you'll kind of see sometimes that if you weigh 8 ounces of sugar and then put the sugar in a cup, like sometimes it's not really the same. It's actually less a lot of times. So we're gonna start with 8 ounces of sugar. And then we have about, I think I wrote 3 ounces, I don't have it with me right now, I can't remember off the top of my head, of cornstarch, which turns out to be about 1/3 cup. So if you don't have a scale, I did give you like cup measurements. So we have the sugar, the cornstarch, and then we have about a teaspoon of kosher salt. And so this pan is on a burner, but it's cold right now, right? And so we're gonna mix this together so that we kind of mix our cornstarch, our sugar, our salt, all of that together. And then now to this, we're gonna take the 10 egg yolks that we separated. And we're gonna add this and whisk all of this together until it becomes all mixed. And I'm gonna spill some out, and that's okay. And it looks like it always looks like it's not gonna come together. You're like, oh my gosh, that's like so much of the dry goods. But if you just keep mixing, it'll eventually all turn into like a really pretty yellow paste, right? So then from here, we've got our bananas that we strained, and you wanna kind of press on them. They're gonna be very soft from, coming to a simmer and sitting in the milk. So we're gonna press on those. One thing I forgot is I do like to add a little bit of clove, but clove can be very overpowering. And if you use ground clove, then I would use like that 1/4 teaspoon little thing that you never use on your measuring spoon set, right? A very, very small amount. But if you use whole cloves, then just 2. A little goes a very long way. And we put those into the milk and then strain those out as well. It does add a little bit of like richness to it. So now we've got this banana infused milk, and it does smell really strong, like bananas. And we're gonna go ahead and whisk this in. And then now we're gonna turn on the heat, and we're gonna bring this up slowly. So you want kind of a low heat. And same thing, we're gonna have to switch a little bit between a whisk and a rubber spatula. So we're gonna whisk it first to make sure that all of the egg yolk and the sugar and all the things are all mixed very well. And then we're just gonna let it kind of go, and we're going to move with our rubber spatula now, kind of scraping the bottom. Because we're using cornstarch and egg yolks, right? So that's going to immediately start to thicken, very similar to how we use the flour in the broccoli casserole. So we need to move it around. And the good thing with this is that it's very forgiving. You're going to hang on to this little strainer that you use to strain your bananas in. And once you're done, and this comes up to temperature and starts to thicken, I always pass it again through here. And it just helps. You never know. There's going to be a little bit of a scrambled egg no matter how good you are, right? So you might as well just pass it through and make sure that it's silky and that you don't get that weird kind of scrambled. So I'm going to let this kind of come up slowly. And then now, I don't know, I'm going to increase this just a little bit. And so with the meringue, we want this to start to be foamy. I think you guys can start to see, right? It's definitely not turning white, but there's starting to be a little bit of bubbles, okay? And at this point, we're going to slowly add our sugar in. And I'm just using regular granulated sugar, okay? We're just going to do a little bit. We're going to let it kind of mix in. A little bit more. Okay. It's not very exact, right? But you don't want to dump it in, right? Let it run and slowly add it in. Now I'm going to turn this all the way up now. And we're just going to let that go. I think now is when you add cream of tartar. I feel like you've done this before. Have you done this before? You were shaking your head about cream of tartar, right? Yeah? Oh, no. It's just meringue. I know. But look, watch. It's going to work. It's going to work. You're going to see. So we're going to just let this, and you'll see it'll start to thicken. I don't want it to boil. And now if you don't want to mess with this, that's fine. You can do whipped cream on top and call it a day. But I always feel like if we're going to separate eggs, then we should use the whites, right? We should do something with them. So we're going to let this keep. Does anybody have any questions while I'm waiting on this custard to simmer? No? No? Okay. And I think you guys, I don't know, can you go back over here for just a second? Yeah. So you can start to see that it's already getting that white kind of color. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, hold on. You're going to break my meringue, but it's okay. Go ahead. Oh, man, that's $1 million question. Or who has $1 million? Somebody in this room have $1 million. Let's go right now. No, I mean, I'm dumb enough to do it again, of course, right? I don't really know how to do anything else. But yes, I have been looking at spaces. I'm actually, right now, I'm opening a restaurant in Jekyll Island, Georgia. That's very similar to the regional. It opens next month. But it's more of a consulting. I'm getting them open and then they'll run with it. And then I'll get serious. Real estate's gotten real crazy around here, you know? So, yes. All right, so we're going to let this go. And then now, okay, I think you guys can see. And I want to show you this too, because I was talking, right, not stirring, so that you can see that some of it's starting to come together. So it's okay if that happens. Just grab your whisk, right? And we just want to start to whisk all that together. And so at this point, you see how tight that got all of a sudden, right? So at this point, you're going to yell at your Alexa or your phone or your watch or whatever, or you're going to count out loud to 90, all right, 1.5 minutes. And you're not going to stop stirring because it's going to bubble and be hot and maybe burn you, okay? But we're going to turn it down really low, and you're going to continue to cook this for 1.5 minutes, okay, more or less. And you want to keep moving it because you don't want the starch or anything to stick, but we're activating the cornstarch in it. Don't worry, the meringue's going to be fine. It's just going to keep whipping and whipping and whipping. Can't really over whip it. All right. All right, so my internal chef clock says that that's about there, right? So you see that we've got like a really nice kind of pudding texture, right? So at this point, you could, if I had my bowl, you could strain it back through this, right? You want to get rid of your bananas. You could strain it back through, and then because it's so thick, you're going to need to use like a spatula to go back and forth, right? And then the last thing that we're going to add is I'm using vanilla paste. So you can use vanilla extract, right? But vanilla paste is a lot nicer. It gives you a little bit more of actual vanilla flavor than just regular vanilla extract. It's a bit more expensive, but a little bit goes a long way. Oh, he brought me my bowl, so I'll do it real quick. Okay. So you can find it. Oh, thank you. So you can find it. I have seen it. I think I've seen it at Whole Foods. I know I've seen it at Sur La Table, where they have like, you know, kind of the higher end stuff. I mean, I think you can get pretty much anything on Amazon these days. But yeah, vanilla paste is what you're looking for. And you can kind of see, right? You see how thick that is? Like, wait, sorry, I went in the wrong place. There it is, right? You see it's kind of like Jell-O, right? It's very, very thick. So we're just going to use a very little amount, and I'll show you guys because that's maybe a half teaspoon. It's just a little bit. But even just that little bit, I already see like all the vanilla like little pods in there, right? And I can already smell it. A little bit goes a long way. It is more expensive than vanilla extract, but it's just much nicer. So now I'm just going to put this through the strainer. But with vanilla, you kind of always want to add it at the end. It's not going to really do anything bad, but it tends to cook the flavor out if you're cooking it while it's really hot. So I always like to add it in right at the end. So then we're just going to use like a spatula to force it all through just to make sure. And you can eat the banana pudding as you get it if you want to. But we're just going to force this through. And then you always want to take plastic wrap, which I'm going to, and see, even with me, and I got to talking, right? But you guys can kind of see, I don't know, can you go in? I'm not good with this. Where is the angle? But you can see that I've got a couple little pieces, right, of like the egg. It's not horrible, but it's definitely going to be better that we left that behind by forcing it through the sieve. So then at this point, I know there's like a whole Seinfeld thing about pudding skin, right? But I'm not a fan, right? And this will make a skin. So it's hot, right? But we want to take plastic and push it directly into the top. And then you can either, if you want to use this really quickly, you can set it in a bowl of ice water and that'll cool it down pretty quickly in about 15 to 20 minutes. But you want to put this directly on top because as it cools, the top is going to cool and it's going to create that film or that like skin. And you can mix it through and it'll break back up. But to avoid that, if you do plastic wrap and press it directly into it, then you'll avoid that altogether. Once it's completely cool, then you can take this off and the skin won't develop. The skin only develops while it's cooling. So our meringue is getting there. And then I'm just going to build you guys one of these. And we're going to pretend this is cool now. And so, again, you could do this in a large pan. You could do them in little glasses like we did. And we're going to just, let me grab a spoon. We're just going to start off by putting a little bit of the banana cream in the bottom of the dish. And then we've got just some good old Nilla wafers, right? And we're going to put a couple in the bottom. And we're going to put another layer of the cream. Now for me, I always like banana pudding after it's sat for a little while and made the cookies a little bit softer. I did in between for you guys, so there'll be some parts that are kind of crunchy and some that are softer. And then we're just going to take some ripe bananas. whenever I'm using bananas for like a banana pudding or something, instead of just aggressively tearing it and risk kind of bruising the top, I always cut the top off, make a little slit, and then open it. It's just a little bit more gentle if you're going to slice it, and you won't end up with some pieces being broken. And then from here, we're just gonna go through and just make some slices. I don't like to go too thin. I like a little texture. And we're just going to layer some bananas. And then we'll just repeat this with just a little more cream, a little more cookies. And then if you decide to go the meringue route, which we're almost there, you've got a couple of options. So I'm going to show you the fancy kind of chef option, where we're going to pipe it, and then we're going to torch it. If you don't have a torch, you can use the broiler in your oven. Just be careful, right? Broilers are always one of those things that happen very quickly, and it turns south very quickly. But if you're trying to be fancy and you want to try and pipe it, then I'll show you how you can do that. So I'm using a straight tip for this, just to have a little bit more decoration. I think a lot of people think that a star tip will always give you more decoration, and it will, depending on what it is. If you're using something that's like soft and buttercream type of thing, but we're using meringue, which is, if you used a star, it's not really going to look like a star, just because of the texture of it. So we're just going to use a straight edge tip, and then we're using a disposable pastry bag. We're just going to cut the edge of this off. Slide this down, and then you always want to fold your bag over. Oh, the flavor is really there, the banana, right? And that's just from steeping milk with bananas. There's nothing else in it. It's just bananas and milk. But the bananas really come through, even more so than Jell-O banana pudding mix, to be honest with you. Yeah. All right, so at this point, we're still kind of at a soft peak, but I don't want you guys to sit here all night. But you can see that we made meringue, right? Just with egg whites and sugar. We didn't use cream, it's harder. Don't tell a pastry chef, because they probably would like die that this is the way. But I think, you know, it does work, right? And this makes a lot of meringue. So if you can see that 10 eggs like almost filled this entire mixer, right? So from here, if you feel comfortable piping, then you could pipe these on some parchment paper, put them in a low oven, and then you make like little toasted meringues, right? So there's some different ways. Now, if you don't want to mess with a piping bag, right, you can just take a big old spoonful, put it on top, run your spoon under some hot water, and then like make decorations just by like kind of moving a hot spoon, and it'll make little peaks and valleys. And then you can either torch it or put it under a broiler, like I said. So anyways, we're going to push through this meringue. And then from here, we're just going to make some little dots, right? If it wants to come off. There we go. And we're just going to make some little dots. And I don't like to go over the whole thing because meringue is very sticky and sweet. So I don't like to cover the whole thing. But you definitely, if you want to do it with a spoon, then you kind of want to if you're going under a broiler, because you don't want to burn the custard. But you can make a thin layer, right? So then after we pipe it on top, we're going to use a torch, right? It's dangerous, but it's always fun, right? Walmart sells these. The big ones, right? And so then we're just going to use a torch, and we're just going to kind of go around and torch the meringue. And I do suggest, though, that if you, whichever way, whether you use your broiler or not, once you put meringue on something, you want to go ahead and finish it. You either want to bake it, you want to broil it, you want to do something, because it is 90% air. So it's going to start to deflate, right? But if you were to make this meringue and then say, you know what, I want to make it today, but I want to use it tomorrow, you can, But tomorrow it's going to look weird and you're going to freak out and it's going to be okay. You're just going to put it back in your mixer with your whisk and you're going to whip it. And after about 5 to 10 minutes, it will come right back, right? I think a lot of times we give up. We see it and we're like, oh, that looks terrible. If you put it back in the mixer, it just needs to get the chill off of it and come back to room temperature and get more air in it because, like I said, it's 90% air. So just sitting in a container is just going to deflate, right? The air is going to seep out and then it's going to look kind of broken. But if you put it back, and like even with this, like today, for instance, when I was making 70 of them or how many ever I made, I just left, I would take out what I needed to pipe a few, and I would leave the mixer running. And then I'd come back and get more and leave the mixer running. So just continuing to whip air into it, I promise you two can, if I can make meringue, y'all can make meringue, I'll tell you that. So thank you guys for having me. I hope you enjoyed.
They all have fun together. That's the main purpose of a good team. And I think we all enjoyed ourselves tonight as well. So that was fantastic, Lindsay, Chef Lindsay. Everybody loved it to the max, and they were paying attention, like not moving. Again, Thomas, see you soon on May 2nd. And maybe you have to patronize if you don't know where they are. Of course, it's at the PGA National on PGA Boulevard. And you'll find a nice, if you've never been there, it's a lovely, nice restaurant. I've been there for lunch a lot. I like it. It's casual, it's relaxing, and that's what you want. And of course, they got dinners and breakfast. Thomas does all the breakfast, I presume. So he's there pretty early. So patronize them, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Kitchen, turning up the heat for the feast. We'll be dancing to a reggae song, jamming to the rhythm all night long. Cooking in the kitchen, rocking on the phone. At Kai's Music Bar.